Before Knoxville fully wakes, before the sound of traffic and alarm clocks, the Sun Sphere welcomes the morning. There was a time when people gathered here believing the future could be planned, engineered, and celebrated all at once. They brought children on their shoulders, cameras around their necks, and hope in their pockets. Decades later, the crowds are gone, but the feeling hasn't entirely faded. Joggers still pass by. Kids still ask, what is it? In a city that sometimes forgets how bold it once dared to be, the Sun Sphere stands as a reminder of how big our dreams once were.
So the story of the Sun Sphere has a unique beginning. Not by accident, but it was a spontaneous thing.
Knoxville's Golden Globe is traced back to a man known locally for the Golden Arches.
Lytton Cochran was an entrepreneur of McDonald's, and he was doing a facility in Gatlinburg, at our Gatlinburg office.
He was building a restaurant in Gatlinburg, and we were the architects on it. Gatlinburg would not accept the Golden Arches, the typical McDonald's. They wanted something with stone and a wood shake roof and all that sort of thing. So that's what the meeting was all about.
Hubert Bebb was the founder of the company, and Lytton said, you know, I'm on this KIEE board, and every World's Fair has a theme structure. We don't have one.
Mr. Cochran said, well, we've had somebody suggested a court of flags, have all of the countries participating, and Bill, why don't you come up with something?
And Hubert and I guess Bill looked at each other and said, okay, when do you have to have it? He said, tomorrow morning. Bill started figuring out how we could write it up and do a narrative of the Sun Sphere. Hubert sat down and started sketching. The theme is energy, so why don't we do the source of energy, somehow tie that to the sun? And they came up with the thought, well, let's just do a building, maybe a round sphere. And Hubert did some rough sketches.
The early sketches embellished an idea I had of just putting a spherical restaurant down on the ground. And we actually proposed it to be over here by Cumberland Avenue, but the fair committee came back and threw us a curveball. They said, no, we don't want this on the ground, we want it up in the air.
The original conception was it'd be all concrete. Put a concrete pedal base, put this ball on top of it, and that'd be the Sun Sphere. And he took it to the committee, and they loved the idea. They said, let's do this.
Well, to build a structure like this out of concrete up in the air like they wanted it, that's another close the book on this story. You know, that's just an impossible thing to happen. So somehow, along with the Holy Spirit guiding my lips and my brain, I was able to convince the Board of Zoning Appeals that this was a 5-story building and not a 26-story.
We understand scientists think the sun is about 865,000 feet in diameter.
So our idea was to make this 86.5 feet in diameter.
We kind of had to cut that back and came around with a 74 feet diameter we have today.
The blueprint for the Sun Sphere was locked in. But how do you fund something so ambitious?
If we would finance such a crazy idea, you could never build it because there's never been a spherical building on the planet Earth.
A bank in Kentucky agreed to fund about $5 million. Knoxville City had a grant of $1 million, so it was about a $6 million project.
All the pieces were finally in place, signaling the start of construction on Knoxville's modern showpiece.
It started in November of '79, and the first day of construction was January of '81.
We had to April of '82. That sounds like a long time, but that's really just 15 months.
Concrete takes a longer time to build, and we didn't have the time to do that. We can't take that up 200 feet high, and so we felt like our structural engineer that needed to come up with an easy way to put together the steel. 600 tons of steel coming in, you know, and have to do all kinds of welding and all kinds of stuff. It's going to take time. He came up with a design that he copyrighted that it goes together like Tinker Toys. All those parts came in to delivered, and once they delivered, they could start putting those again, bolting them together, and that's why they could do it so fast.
With such a unique structure, there were also unique problems that could arise.
We went through all kinds of scenarios, like What happens if you're exiting up there? You got to have two exits. What's going to happen when it freezes or when the snow hits and it's dangerous? Well, we'll make a grate so it'll be more open. So every problem they came up with, we came up with a solution as best we could to accomplish that objective that we had.
The base of the Sun Sphere was painted blue to resemble the color of the sky. But another tiny hiccup. How exactly do you make a building gold?
Our construction manager visited 65 different glass manufacturers before we could find anybody. There's like, I think, 7 different sizes had to be cut with that glass. There was a film inside that helped the reflectivity, and it's got 24-karat gold dust in it. The glass itself is 1 inch thick. An airplane flies over, drops a component, shatters the window. One side is tempered and the other side's laminated. The tempered part could crack and break, but the laminated part would catch it so it would not fall without, you'd have some time to kind of react to that crisis. They cost about $1,000 a pane back in the day, as I remember. 360, maybe 360 panes.
The outside of the Sun Sphere sounds great, Lisa, but things are really going to be cooking on the inside. A restaurant featuring continental cuisine is going to occupy the 3rd and 4th levels.
We negotiated with Hardee's and came up with an idea that they thought they would agree to do that. And they said, well, we also need a fast food area, so we did both the dining in the Sun Sphere, but the base of Sun Sphere during the World's Fair was the fast food.
You know, something else that's going to be sharp is the approach to the Sun Sphere. A pair of tube structures called sunscopes will be the entranceways to the tower. Inside these tubes will be an audio-visual presentation on energy and the sun.
Just about everyone in America and the civilized world can identify the scene behind me as the site of the 1982 World's Fair. And the dominant element of that scene is the Sun Sphere.
On May 1st, 1982, the doors finally opened on Knoxville's Disco Ball in the Sky, and attendees paid $2 to ride the elevator to the top.
One day it'd be Bob Hope, the next day Sugar Ray Leonard, and it was just fun to hear, and they'd hold their breath and they'd turn their heads, and it's pretty exciting looking out a glass elevator door as you go flying up the tower. I've heard numbers of 376 people that the restaurant was designed for. However, I can assure you there were times when there were over 747 people in these 5 stories.
Thousands of people every day visit the Sun Sphere, the theme structure for the 1982 World's Fair. But get married?
I do.
Just a month into the festivities, Carl Van Wagner and Sandra Hopkins held their nuptials above the fair. And to top everything off, a Sun Sphere-shaped cake.
I'm sure in years to come, the Sun Sphere will be remembered as one of the most unique theme structures ever constructed. And of course, it's a constant reminder of one of our most important energy sources, the sun.
From May to October of 1982, 11 million people visited the World's Fair in Knoxville, all with the opportunity to see Knoxville from a bird's eye view. But once the pomp and circumstance faded, so too did the shimmer of the scruffy city sphere.
Nothing happened on development of the World's Fair. Nothing. The city just kind of, everybody thought they was going to develop it like it is now.
When the World's Fair was over, this was going to be the featured beverage, food, gathering place. This was going to be, everybody's water hole and place to eat and do all this stuff.
And Hardee's was just not getting the business, so they said, we've got to pull out. This left $1 million worth of kitchen equipment on the table. Oh, wow. Walked away.
In the decade that followed, the Sun Sphere simply lay dormant, save for the occasional visitor to the observation deck and an attempt to make the structure a jack-o'-lantern by radio station WIVK. In 1992, the Sun Sphere's faded sky blue base was painted green as part of a renovation, and it became home to the Knoxville Visitor Information Center. There were talks of multiple restaurants occupying the space once rented by Hardee's, but nothing ever materialized. In 1996, however, the Sun Sphere surged back into the public spotlight.
There's 3 different customers to the Sun Sphere, which I think is really surprising. You have people that are very familiar with what a World's Fair is, and they want to visit all of the things left behind by a World's Fair. Your second customer is like, oh my goodness, there's a big gold ball in the air in Knoxville, and I want to go up in there and see what that is. And then they learn about the World's Fair. And then you have a third customer, and those are the ones that have seen the Simpsons episode.
The Simpsons.
On March 31st, 1996, The Simpsons debuted the episode Bart on the Road. In it, Bart Simpson creates a fake driver's license and takes his friends on a road trip. While in the car, Milhouse discovers a AAA brochure highlighting the 1982 World's Fair.
Knoxville! Knoxville! Knoxville!
In lieu of going to Disney World, the boys set out for Knoxville, Tennessee, only to find the World's Fair park derelict.
What about the Sunsphere?
You mean the Wigs Fair?
I cannot tell you how many people I have met from Finland, from all over the world that say, where's the Wigs Fair? You know, I want to come here because I saw the Sunsphere on the Simpsons episode.
I hate this place.
We'll just ignore the part where they kind of knock it over, but outside of that, it was a great episode.
In the immediate aftermath, the local Fox station was inundated with calls from viewers wanting to see the episode again. According to the show's writer, Richard Appel, there was no ill will toward Knoxville. It was simply the idea of going to a World's Fair 14 years too late that was appealing.
We actually have one of the original scripts up here, and those are really hard to come by because, you know, when The Simpsons was a Fox episode and then that got bought by Disney, so there's a lot of rules that go along with promoting things that are associated with The Simpsons, but we're really proud of that partnership and the ability that we have to tell that story because it is very unique to the Sunsphere.
The episode was the 5th most watched show on Fox that week. In reality, it still wasn't all rainbows and sunshine for the Sunsphere. In fact, Knoxville's own residents had no idea how it was being used.
What's in the Sunsphere?
It was the Tourist Bureau or something, but they keep moving that around, so I don't know now.
Okay.
Anything? I have no idea what's in the Sunsphere.
Curious?
Not really.
By 1998, people were still trickling in to view from the observation deck and to check out the museum. The following year, construction began on the Knoxville Convention Center, closing the Sunsphere and the museum. And according to newspapers at the time, it housed the construction workers on the Convention Center project. A move that CEO of the Public Building Authority, Mike Edwards, said made the Sunsphere the most interesting-looking trailer in Trailer City.
We're using the funds from the sale of the candy factory and the Victorian houses, plus money from the sale of the Poplar Street garage over here to make the necessary renovations to the Sunsphere and the amphitheater.
In 2007, 25 years after its installation, the Sunsphere and the surrounding area got a much-needed $1.8 million facelift.
Mayor Haslam, along with thousands, remember that precious time here at the World's Fair in 1982. But they're even more excited about what they're going to see and hear in the next chapter of the World's Fair Park.
I think a lot of people are excited. We've had a petition out there for a while. The public definitely wants it.
By Independence Day, the public got what they wanted as a newly renovated Sunsphere opened its elevator doors once again.
Beautiful day. You can see for miles and miles, and I think they've done an excellent job restoring it.
The Bible says love is patient and kind.
And what would a Sunsphere opening be without a wedding?
He loves the Sunsphere so much, so I was like, yeah, we ought to just get married up there. And then the more we talked about it and we told people, they're like, you should really do it.
Since then, the restaurants have come and gone, but the observation deck has remained open, and in 2019, the Sunsphere Fund was established.
The Sunsphere Fund and the creation of that fund makes it where this Sunsphere could be supported and live forever and continue to have enhancements over the next 40 years. I mean, I think there's a lot of things we can still do with this structure, but my goal is to make sure the Sunsphere is here, standing, viable, and kept up to date for the next 100 years.
The first big change, repainting it to its former color.
Well, we searched and searched for the Pantone of the blue because it was green for at least 30 years. and it held up great, but we needed that original blue. So we searched all over the Sunsphere, and in one small closet in one of the engineering rooms, we found a part of the steel that had not been painted green. And so we were able to color match to the exact 1982 blue.
Next, a brand new welcome center.
It is a great welcome center. It's open for free to the public. You can finally come to the Sunsphere and talk to personnel, figure out visitor information, learn all the things you want to know to decide if you'd like to buy a ticket to come up the elevator to the observation deck, which is now a museum-level quality experience.
Since its inception, similar structures have popped up around the world in places like Kazakhstan and Vienna. But the original Sunsphere will always stand proud above the scruffy city.
It's a source of pride. It's more of just thankfulness and blessing that I had the opportunity to be a part of it. I hope they don't tear it down. Well, I think right now, if you look at most of the advertisements and concept, it seems to be an icon for Knoxville, like World Fair themed structure should be. You know, it may not be on the same level as Eiffel Tower in terms of the attraction, those things, but it's still an icon for Knoxville. That's something to be proud of.
I'm kind of biased, I think. So obviously I think the Sunsphere is the best. But I mean, I guess if you polled some of our visitors, they might say the Eiffel Tower beats us by a hair bit. But I definitely think we're better than the Seattle Space Needle. No offense, Seattle, but I'm just saying.
The Sunsphere was never just an attraction. It was a promise that Knoxville believed in tomorrow. The park may have emptied and the crowds moved on, but that promise never fully disappeared. Families passed beneath it without thinking. Children point up in wonder, and longtime residents smile with familiarity. What began as architecture became a memory. What began as ambition became belonging. Time has tested the Sunsphere in ways no architect could ever predict. It has weathered economic shifts, cultural change, and long stretches of uncertainty. Yet, it still stands, unbroken and unmistakable.
There's a lot of fast food chains, burgers and barbecue and chicken and pizza and sandwiches, but there's not really anything out there like Petra's.
I gotta get a quick documentation of this. Awesome, sweet.
My name's Alex Widmer, and I work at Petra's. It's a household name, just like Chapstick and Kleenex are brand names that are household products. That's what a Petra is.
Wedge up.
You kind of know if you're from Knoxville or not, if you don't know what a Petra is.
You have a nice day. Come back to see you.
Well, a Petra is a Fritos corn chips with our special recipe chili, grated cheeses, tomatoes, sour cream, black olives, jalapenos. My name's Dale Widmer. I was one of the founders of Petra's and currently the CEO president. I know I'm biased, but everything on the menu is really good. We have baked potatoes, which are giant. We have all beef, black Angus hot dogs that are incredible. We've got nachos, lettuce wedges, blue cheese lettuce wedge. Most everything we have, you can build a Petra on top of it.
All Americans can be proud of this World's Fair that we opened today.
Back in 1982 at the World's Fair in Knoxville, the theme was energy. And so some friends of ours wanted to come to Knoxville and have a food product. So the food product came from the Frito pie from Texas, Arizona. That's kind of how it started. Wanted to come up with a name that had to do with energy. So the original name was Petroleum Bellies, but that wasn't overly appetizing. So then that was adjusted and shortened down to Petro. So it was Petro's Chili and Chips. And then we had things like regular, premium, unleaded Petros, Petro additives, all that stuff that had to do with energy. And that's where the name came from. And at that time, it was just cutting open a Frito bag, putting everything in the Frito bag, and walking around with it and eating it at the fair. So everybody starts to walk around, and it just became a hit, probably within a couple months after the fair started.
As a matter of fact, I brought you something.
I thought I smelled food.
Doesn't that
Thank
look
you,
good?
Rob. This looks great. What is it?
It's called a Petro.
A Petro. Hey, well, I'm just going to take a little sample here.
What do you think?
Oh, I think it's great.
For the last several weeks of the fair, there were literally lines an hour long to get a Petro because people thought, well, it's going away and we'll never see it again. Went down to New Orleans in '84, did the same thing, and even though the fair was a lot less attendance, the concept was still successful down there. So my brother and I said, hey, we want to go back to Knoxville where we started this and see if it'll work in the real world. We opened up the first permanent store in '85 on Friday September 13th in West Town Mall. We thought, man, we're just going to have hour-long lines. It wasn't quite that way. We opened up a second store in '87 over at East Town Mall, and people said, okay, I get it, I like it, but why do I have to eat it out of this bag? And so we went to the barrel or the bowl. That made it a lot easier for people to eat, set it down, all that. We went to Nashville and we opened up at Rivergate Mall, Church Street Center Mall, and then we went to Hamilton Place Mall in Chattanooga and Johnson City Mall. We were in malls. We just felt safer in mall food courts at that point. And food courts were a pretty big deal back during that time.
You're doing that well that you have to hire more people.
Yeah, absolutely. In the first 10 years of Petros, they grew from 0 to 10 stores. That was from '85 to '95. In 1995 alone, I think they sold 8 franchises. So, like I said, it's really reaching critical mass. And like a customer just told me last night, it seems like these places are cropping up all over the state. So we're real pleased to be where we are.
Good old East Tennessee?
That's exactly right.
We've had as many as close to 20 stores opened at once. Some franchise, some corporate. All right, before 80 altogether, sir. I think at one point we actually changed our tagline to Southern Fare with Southwestern Flair. That was before all the burrito places came out. We had Southern style cornbread and black bean soup and different things like that. So we were kind of going Southwest a little bit. That was years ago. So we've done that. We tried all different kinds of desserts. And that we may come up with an Asian Petro or something. So we're always trying to think of new things that would add to our menu. We're going to go to North Carolina or Arkansas and we even opened a store up in Texas. Part of the problem was our brand wasn't known in those areas, and so the time and energy and cost to build the brand up in a new market is where we've had some setbacks. So we've taken steps forward and stepped back. Right now we've got 8 corporate stores, a food truck, and we've got franchising with University of Tennessee, and we got 6 locations in Neyland Stadium and 2 over in Thompson Bowling. But what we're probably equally as famous for is our iced tea. We have a hint of orange iced tea that we introduced when we opened up in '85.
Everybody has tea, sweet tea, unsweet tea, but ours was always with a hint of orange. So it was just different enough that people really loved it and kept coming back. And I think that's what I love seeing is how unique it is, and there's just not anything out there like it. The concept, I think, was really originated from a tea way back in the days of Copper Cellar where my mom worked in college, and took the idea and really made it our own. Started putting dried orange rind and our black pico tea. Our manufacturer put it together. Now it is simplified into an oil base that is now put into our black pico tea. We ship it all over the country every single week. Especially during the holidays, we are shipping it to, I think I counted, there's probably 30 different states that we shipped it out to in a matter of 2 months, which was a lot of fun.
Try the new hint of orange hard iced tea Petro X Gypsy collab with us.
I wrote down in my journal about 3 years ago, I just was like, man, I think it'd be really cool to have our tea in an alcoholic form, like Gypsy Circus. They've been interested in making a hard tea.
Okay.
Yep.
Wait, I'm obsessed.
Yep.
So just two small local businesses coming together. We worked on it for about a year and finished it up this past August in 2025.
Alex was, when he, back during, we tried not to break child labor laws, but he and his sister both helped in the store, in high school. And then even when he was in college, he'd, come back during breaks and summers and help at the store and all that. And he always liked it.
I think for me, it was a matter of when, never if, I would step in the family business. I loved business, and when you start learning what is out there in the world to go chase in business, you start realizing, okay, this concept really is different. There's not really anything out there like it. I love being able to work with my dad, and I think as I look at my son as he grows to have a wild and fun personality, I would love the opportunity to work with him, but I'm gonna let him make that decision for himself. Listen to it.
I'm not getting any younger. I started this thing back at the World's Fair, so trying to, pass the baton on to the next generation. And Alex has got great ideas in terms of growth.
I love having the ball in the fourth quarter to take the last shot. Whether I make it or miss it, I just know that it's my responsibility to figure out where we are going to go. There is something so humbling and so honoring that something that my dad and my uncles have created has been loved by so many people here in Knoxville and outside of Knoxville over decades, and I just want to help carry that on.
Thanks for choosing Petros. What can I get for you?
I see Petros as a 40-year-old startup. We have changed logos, we've changed colors, we've changed dining rooms, we've put up new murals, we're putting up nostalgic photos, we are adding new things to our menu, we're changing the way we're doing things. I don't want this brand to ever close.
Down in. We sometimes feel like we have a cult-like following. We just want to keep expanding that. We've worked hard at it. We continue to work hard at it. And if we can get the product in somebody's mouth, whether it's the tea or the Petro, 8, 9 out of 10 people like it, and they'll come back.
I want to be able to open up more locations in Powell and Carnes and Halls and Fountain City, Cedar Bluff, Farragut, you name it. I would love for this to continue to spread in Knoxville, outside of Knoxville, and other cities and other communities, because there is really nothing else like it.
Alrighty, sweetheart. Here you go.
Thank you so much.
You have a good day, okay?
You as well, thank you.
Sir.
You almost can't go through a full day and not interact or see someone interacting with ELO technology somewhere. We sell in 84 countries around the globe, and it's been that way for many, many years. ELO first was the company that actually invented the touchscreen. Not everybody in the Knoxville area knows that. It was actually back in 1971 that the company was formed by our founder, Sam Hurst.
University of Kentucky at the time had a Van de Graaff accelerator, so everybody wanted to use it. So they would be there all night taking data. Then when the experiment finished, the students had to digitize each one of those points by hand, and that took so much time, thousands of these points.
And so these pictures of graphs and things had to be turned into data that you could do calculations with. And so he invented what he later called the illograph, in which you'd take charts of paper and digitize, turn that into numerical values that you could do calculations on.
Came back to Oak Ridge, OR&L decided to commercialize the illograph.
So we created this digitizer, which eventually became the touchscreen.
In the 70s, he began to see monitors that were coupled with the computers of the time. He said, maybe I can adapt this touch technology to a screen.
With a lot of experiments and a lot of development, finally came up with the formula for transparent sheets, which had to be held apart by a matrix of very tiny insulating dots. They manufactured those in various sizes, to fit different monitors and such.
Famously, when we debuted that, was at the 1982 World's Fair.
In this particular exhibit, they're using a pressure-sensitive television screen to be able to tell you more about energy.
But I would say that probably nobody realized what an enormous impact it would have on the world. So we enabled a rush of technology that has changed almost everything that we do today.
We actually developed 4 patents in the touchscreen field, and our business address was the Cracker Barrel. we had our meetings at the Cracker Barrel over breakfast, and gave a generous tip because we extended that discussion time for a few hours.
These are a couple of our self-order kiosks used in a lot of fast food restaurants and everywhere else around the world. You probably recognize that one.
Sam expanded this business of illographics, he called it, in Oak Ridge to over 200 employees. It was producing all the touchscreens for the restaurant industry.
Not everyone will notice the name ELO, but once you've heard it, people always tell us, they say, wow, ELO really is everywhere. So for instance, if you are checking out at major retailers, Target, Walmart, Kohl's, JCPenney, many, many more, they're probably using ELO computing technology and touchscreens to check you out. Whether or not that's with the associate at the cashier or that's using self-checkout, which we do a lot of as well.
So ELO has a new facility here in Knoxville. It's about 90,000 square feet. We opened this facility in August of 2021. You know, I was raised in Knoxville, and I was 8 years old when the World's Fair was in Knoxville. So I had the opportunity to go many, many times, and I vividly remember the touch screen being introduced and that exhibit. If you think about the ELO products, you know, we're receiving in from our factories touchscreen monitors, touchscreen computers, all the accessories that go along with those, handheld computers. Those products come into our warehouse, we unload those products, and then we ship them out to our customers. And then any work that our customers need done to those products, whether it's repairing or modifying or enhancing, we do that inside of our depot that we have here.
There's a lot of technology behind it, right? There's the computing processing power, there are drivers, there are things called ASICs that are, you know, very, very complex circuitry. There are the chemicals that are used in making the screens. And then there's software on top of that. And the great part is all of that technology comes together, but when the customer uses it, it just seems easy. And that's what we always want to do.
The neat thing about us relocating this operation in Knoxville is that 70% of our customers are on the east side of the Mississippi. We can have products arrive at the port, and within a day we can have those products here at our warehouse, and we're about a day away from all of our major customers as well.
If you look at this wall, you can see that we make touchscreen computers all the way from 7 inches all the way up to 65 inches. Innovation creates jobs, creates opportunities, and that's really what it's all about. You know, we used to talk about over 50 million that have been installed in the world and whatnot. Honestly, I think we've probably lost count, but they truly are everywhere. We love being here where it all started. Kind of all makes sense, and it's fun to be thinking about the 82 World's Fair of debuting our first product and then thinking what we've done since then, which just kind of continues to change the world. 55 years of our company being in business, we continue to create that history year after year.